I'm the pinch hitter today, and going to go through kind of the mobile application that we've been upgrading, enhancing based upon all of our customer base. How many people here actually have the mobile application employed within your Smartabase usage? Probably about 50%, it looks like. So there's some things that we've been putting into the application. Initially, it was purely just to get data in, the core functions of Smartabase. But every conversation that we have with our organizations or clients is they want the iPhone to be the interface by the athlete. They want the iPad to be the interface in the weight room or in the coach's hands. So we had some things that were in there in the mobile app and that we wanted to make sure that they were the core functions, but it didn't do the complete job. So if you've used the application, we've recently updated it, and we've added a few more elements into it. And so we're going to go through a few of the features here so that you can see that what we're trying to do is a one-stop shop centered around the athlete input. And then again, based upon the next wave of customer input as to maybe what we're missing there from the coach's perspective. And Peter, Marcus, and I were kind of brainstorming last night based upon one of the inputs in our workshop session yesterday, and we implemented it, and I'll take you through that and show you the demo on that. So it was a way to try and enhance the coach's capabilities with the mobile app. We just put out the new November 13th version of the the iOS release. We also have a Android package wrapper beta test up that was mentioned the other day. Now please realize that that's really just going to the online site. It's not quite yet an Android app that can be working offline. Okay, and we'll step through a little bit as to what it is that's causing that issue for us to not right yet invest into that application. So some of the features that we've added into the system, we're going to step through each of these, but again, it's the list of what we've had responses to get this athlete-centered and to make sure that we've got some of the caveats that we have in the online version in use on the mobile platform. So now you have within the system the capabilities to select your groups. Little caveat on that is that when you do go in to the system, you want to go in at the highest level of your subgroups. Okay, from what we've learned with just our testing of the system is if we start with the highest, we can go down and select the subgroups and we don't have to re-upload data. But if I started a subgroup and I want to go up a level, it's got to go back out and be online and reload that group. So just as you're deploying this to your professionals and your coaches and things like that, make sure you kind of keep that in mind as to what do you bring in to use on the offline version. But you'll see within the section here that you've got now this option with a current player list, and this is where we change through our groups and then pick the different groups. You can see, you can't really see here, it's quite small, but this one has 1,117 players. That's a big group to download, so you just got to give yourself a little bit of time. It's not going to switch real quick. If it's online, it's got to go out and get that information because we do not store it right there. The My Resources module online has been enhanced. We've basically taken the capability of having the uploads of the different documents and resources that you're putting in, and now they will show up online, or excuse me, on the mobile app in the My Resource section as a downloadable element. Okay, so it's somewhat detached from the event, but you still have access to it. All right, so just an enhancement to the My Resource section. Some other data selection tools. We've tested and made sure that some of the online data selection criteria and the conditional settings that you would have so that you might not want them to be able to save unless certain criteria has been met, or hide things, show things based upon other selection criteria within the elements that you've set up on your event form. So those are now pulled through into your data selection on your mobile forms. Sorting and filters are now capable within the forms that you've got, as well as some of the visualizations that are currently available. Inline reports are now being pulled through into the mobile app, so a little bit better for the coaches to have, or some immediate feedback for your athletes. Conditional visibility for the athletes and the coaches is now pulled through. Before it was showing kind of a little bit of both, but we've got that tailored now, so that's been updated, and as well as based upon any field sums calculations that you might use. This was a big one that we put in there, is the ability to have the athlete do their profile input within the system. Within the mobile system. So before, we had a lot of getting their events in there, but when they needed to change or they had to do some type of an entry in their profile, we forced them to go online, and there was a compliance issue there. So what we've done now is moved the capabilities of having the profiles now editable online in the mobile application, and it really kind of brings around that totality as to what it is that the athletes wanted on their mobile app, and so that they don't ever really have to go to an online situation right now. We've improved the capability of getting the CSS on there. We've only done a couple so far, but it certainly makes it look and feel more like it's your product, your application that they're going into. The same things David went through, the icon set of the athletes when you're selecting the athletes, as well as the colors, branding, your logo, everything. So let me just jump and I'll bring up an example so you can kind of see that. So here we've got basically just a branding for the Spurs. You can see the orientation can kind of change, so you can do some testing and see what it's going to look like. And here you'll see that it pulls through the icons of the athletes, and so they can select by their picture, the coach can select by their picture. The picture selection is only when you're actually attached online. If you're offline, it's just the name. And that's just due to the fact that the pictures are just large, and we're trying to keep it concise and within the app structure. We've done some improvement to the mobile sliders, and where they get reflected is to what device. We're actually detecting what device those are being used on. You can see on the image on the left, you have the parameters in that slider properties to set up whether or not you want them to have, show all of the selection options, show some, every other one, first or middle, things like that. But when you get onto an iPhone, or excuse me, this is like on an iPad where it has the capabilities in the landscape orientation. But here, when you're on an iPhone app, it'll only show the first and last and then put tick marks. They still can get to those intermediary ones, but we've taken the labels out. Okay, so as I talk about later on a bit, it's really important that you test your build of the app, and so that you can see what recommendations you want, what question types you're going to use, and what options are going to be selected within those question types. This example is basically the kiosk mode, and the athlete can just pick their picture. You can see right up at the top here, this entered on is no longer a separate page that was in the previous version of the app, where people were getting frustrated, like, no, just put today, I'm doing it today, we don't want it there, so why have that extra page? So we listened, and now it's just if it's defaulted there, you don't even have to go into it. If you want to go into it, you would just basically hit the bar and step in and change that entry date, the entered on date. Sorry, I keep reversing it on you guys, and you guys keep going like this. So you can see here when we put together the wellness on this one, there was some things, you've got to test as to vertical or horizontal orientation. We've got the red that comes up for the required elements that go on there. And then here you can see that we had actually pulled through the number of hours slept, and they wanted 0 to 16. Well, you can see it kind of made it through two levels, and it didn't. If we were to go vertical, then all of a sudden now we're going to go through a much more of a scroll of the page here. So this might be something that we put a slider bar instead, and then allow them to kind of pick and choose what number they want just by the the ticks on the line. It could be a drop down where it's just going from 0 to 16, whatever you want. Again, optimizing your real estate and putting it to something that you know that the athletes are going to get to, and that it's maybe not off the page. Okay. So our demo site that we have, this is where what Peter put together the other day is if I wanted to go in and enter the data for the athlete, pick our famous athlete, most overtrained athlete in the world, Jamie Anderson. And we have this wellness kiosk right now that he put up. And what you're going to see here at the top that's new, it's a little bit small, but you can see it, is enter your PIN. And what we've done is added an additional level of verification that the athlete puts into their profile. So when the athlete goes into their specific app, they could set up their PIN number, their jersey number, whatever it is. We've chosen to put in a number between, 1,000 and 9,999, okay, and a 4-digit number. So they can't go in really any further until they enter in their PIN and it's valid. The reason being is that if we go back a level here, and I cancel that, and I go, oops, we've got the workflow going the way we like it. So just going back to my enter data. If they happen to select the wrong athlete, when you go into that workflow, we had no way of identifying that it was the athlete, and that got brought up in the workshop, is that even though they selected a picture, there was no way to know when you're in that event form that you're actually on that athlete. So this was the way that for the athlete putting the information in, we put in that PIN for identification. All right, and you see that it came in, it said PIN confirmation yes. So now he can go in and select the information, the heart rate, anything else that was in there, where their soreness areas are, average. Okay, and fill it in and then save it. So we've found that a lot, especially with some of the professional sports organizations, the kiosk mode, they're setting up separate kiosk modes for single event forms, and they just have an iPad sitting on the wall in the weight room. On the wall as they go into their locker room for them to put their RPE in, for them to, when they walk in, to put their wellness, a simple 5-question wellness form, things like that. And so what we're using is the mobile app to really just allow them to focus on one thing at a time, but we have to create a license called like wellness coach, and that wellness coach's role is only to have just that one favorite event that gets put in so that we can get into a real simple workflow for the athletes. So just some just kind of best practices of your mobile app. We've talked a little bit about these already. Just make sure that the layout on the mobile devices that you're using. Consider the different types of responses that you build into the form. Even though it's real easy to put them in your main event form that you might be using online, but when you get it to the athlete mode, it's probably, you got to figure out where it's going to be, higher mobile usage or online usage, and which one you want to optimize for. Also, what question types you're going to use so that you can fit them on the page. Maybe you're going to use shorter labels versus longer labels underneath, because you'll be able to see quickly stuff that runs off to the right, and there is no right-left scroll capabilities, but there is the up-down. Put the paginations in there so that it makes it very succinct as to, once they finish a page, then they hit next, or do you want them to kind of scroll up and down? And a lot of this comes from the feedback from the athletes and utilizing it. So just optimize those tools within the system. So the Android app, as I mentioned, it's kind of a wrapper that we have out there right now. The limitations that Android has doesn't allow for the large database to be downloaded. Well, now they've changed that so that we can actually download a larger database size based upon the number of athletes and the information we're trying to get down to the mobile platform. But there's some other things that Android hasn't addressed, as well as from a security perspective, as well as a multiple device perspective. There's just so many different provisions, and if we write an Android app, it may only work on 50% of the Android devices. So we get ourselves to a perspective right now that we've created this wrapper that is an online-only access point. So that's what we spoke about the other day. That's what's out there right now. There are some things that, Android just did some revisions and they're already broke. All right, and we don't get any foreshadowing as to that. So we're hoping in December we're going to have another release of that wrapper. And then we're also going to sit down and kind of look at, what it is we really want to do with the Android platform. We know that we've got lots of people utilizing these devices, and some of it we need to hear from you guys, the importance of it, but we just don't have an unlimited scope of resource to say that we're going to support all 500 different Android devices that are out there, and we may just need to do the most popular, the ones that we have out there. So we've got about 6 to 8 weeks of development that needs to go into such a platform development for the Android device. And we just need to kind of identify from your input, your users' input, or what you're facing, and then also our resources towards that as to, what is it worth it, and then also what it is that we really need to achieve with that mobile application from an Android perspective. So just a summary kind of up on the mobile strategies. Make sure you kind of limit what events you're going to push forward. We're not going to get a lot of our medical assessments or medical injury forms onto the iPhone, maybe an iPad, just with the real estate. So just take things into consideration. Also take it slow. Put some of the simple ones up that the athletes can get into and get the compliance going. Use your reminders that you can set so that you can start to get that compliance. Start out with reminders that do it every morning when they wake up. When they pick up their first thing everybody's doing is picking up your phone, checking something. Okay, so they've got a text there waiting. Take that away after a while. Have a second one when the data is not been put in. That's when I'm going to send the reminder. Okay, so maybe 2 in the afternoon. If they haven't done it, I can set a reminder to check this group's of athletes' data. It hasn't happened. Now I'm going to send the text message out. So early on, you might do the 7 a.m. and the 2 p.m., and then you're going to do just the 2 p.m. one, okay, to get that functional. Make sure you understand who's using online, who wants mobile, things like that, and in what roles they are within your system so you can get those tailored and customized. Think about the kiosk atmosphere. We know that a lot of the teams don't allow the cell phones into, or the smart devices into the weight rooms. So think about more putting a computer there, putting an iPad on the wall. And we're working, as Marcus said, we're working with some third parties that hopefully can push some of that load data from the equipment right into the system so that we really don't have to get anything but maybe that RPE at the end of the training session. As we've added in there, brand it and get yourself a mobile platform that can suit your customer base. So, any questions on mobile? Yeah.
Like text message reminders, is there any functionality to change the time zone when that reminder may come through? Like, it's come up with travel and team where it might be set for 9 a.m. to remind them to do their morning check-in, and then when they travel, that text comes through at 3 in the morning, and you get something like that.
So. The question was, when you set up a reminder for, say, 7 a.m. and they're traveling in another time zone, all of a sudden that text comes through at 3 a.m. And so it should be set at, like you do with your Outlook calendars. If you set an appointment for 9 a.m. here, but you go to another time zone, it adjusts to it. So
scheduling. So with the scheduling module coming out now, because that's an iCal feed and that's feeding into your Outlook, and so basically get the phone calendar. This is a great thing about this new iCal function. We can get the phone calendar of the athlete, reminding them, not the daily reminder function from Smartabase, because that will adjust the time zone when they adjust time zone, and on smartphones now it's automatic. So yeah, that's the answer to that. You can schedule it up when they travel, for that time zone, and off you go. So I think that's one of the really great things about the scheduling thing. So stop using those reminders and start using these. Again, it's about scenarios, horses for courses, and figuring that out. But that's a really cool part of it, because again, when they're travelling and stuff, one of the things about daily reminders, it's not just a time zone. It requires internet connection. It relies on, it relies on servers, it relies on web connectivity, things like that. And again, when they're travelling, they don't have that. So if you push that down via the iCal feed before they even travel, then it's with them wherever they go, whether online, offline, whatever. So that's going to be really cool.
Yeah, that's a good replacement. Yeah.
For the kiosk and widgets, where just to put it within a role, so you don't have a limited number of forms, but what other considerations you have to make with the form? Is it simple to set them up?
You basically set up your forms within your mobile, or within the builder area, and then there's a mobile enable on your main form, okay? But then there's also the ability, when you put in sections, to start saying that you want a section break, which will create the pages within the system. And then your sections, really how you set up your sections is you're going to see how that came through. Like you saw with that one multi-option question, 1 to 16, it's not the optimal question type for that input. So it's, that form is very similar the way they're going to see it online, but it's been optimized more just by the selection type. So does that give you the area as to where you set that up? And
I think apart from that, in terms of the difference between the normal use of it and going to kiosk mode, there's no difference to the form. It's the same form. It's basically what you're doing is the way it is, it's a little bit of a workaround. You're creating a dummy coach who's the wellness coach or something like that. They've got access to one form, nothing else. So none of the other buttons on the home page of the app come up, like athlete history or my schedule or anything. You strip all of that out, so the athletes can't make a mistake. They hit a button, they pick the photo, and that's it. That's what the kiosk mode's all about. Yeah, we've got an idea that they've put on the dev list, which is to actually build that into a normal coach's functionality. So I actually have on the front page a button saying enter kiosk mode. So I log in as my full permission with everything, but then I go enter kiosk mode, I pick a form, and it locks into that loop until I log out again.
Picture, entry,
really,
entry,
cool.
And they just keep going back in.
So we put that on the list, but we just put out a mobile release, so don't hold your breath. No, we'll get it done, but and that would be really cool. But until now, it's a slight workaround that you dedicate a license to it, which isn't the end of the world. One thing I just want to bring up, I was going to bring up at the start, but I didn't want to steal Tanya's thunder. We were sitting around last night because Steve brought this up yesterday, and a couple of people brought this up yesterday about this issue of the athlete hitting the wrong thing, and we talked about, we could have some sort of new PIN number function in the system in admin, we could have some sort of fingerprint recognition, or there's all these different possibilities of getting that validation step. And there's moments when you just realise, you just realise how powerful the customization capabilities of software are. We're sitting there going, oh wow, that would be really cool, what a shame. And then 3 Peronis and a few laughs later, hey, what if we just set up a profile page, the athlete can put their own PIN number in there that nobody else can see, because it's athlete visible only, it's athlete entered only, so they're the only people in the world that can see it. They can put in their PIN number, link that through the event page, and when they go in, it pulls through, they have to enter, and if it matches, use a validative function that then shows the wellness form. Otherwise they can't even see it. They even start answering it if they've picked the wrong athlete. Done. Pete built it in 10 minutes, we tested it, high-fived each other, and problem solved. It was really cool. It was just one of those light bulb moments that was really exciting. And again, it's about asking the question.
Yeah. And it's also something like that could be used for data going outward too. Mm-hmm. So maybe that same PIN that athlete can provide to somebody that they want to send it to, and they have to enter that PIN in before it gets shown, the inline report or the information gets shown. So there's lots of capabilities now that we've kind of created that little the PIN number on behalf of the athlete, and then they get a little bit more control. But again, that's what gets built into the forms that you would use.
That was one we thought about actually. We'd been asked before, and especially in medical, like let's say the scenario you've got a medical summary report that's got some potentially sensitive information in it, and you want the ability to allow the athlete to control whether the person can see that or not. What you could do is you could add this PIN number function to that form, And basically that information only becomes available to the coaches or other medical information after the athlete has gone in and put their PIN number into that copy of the form to release that information, basically. Again, same thing, build it in 10 minutes. So there's a lot of, it's one of those things where it opens up a loop now and we're sort of thinking, hey, we can do that. But again, this is where it comes down to that communication and getting these forums going and stuff like that, because there are so many options. It's almost too much for some people, but again, if we communicate those, it's a big powerhouse we're sitting on, so that's cool.
For the kiosk mode that you had, you created just one coach user that you logged on for that. What if you had 5 iPads on the wall? Would you log in with the same user?
Well, it comes down to the role and the workflow. Okay, so if you had 5 iPads because you were having the same, do you want the same?
Yeah, the same form, because they're all.
You could use the same coach logging in.
Okay, it's not a problem that you're logged in at the same place with traffic going into the system.
No, because they're all going to have their own time of day stamp and everything. So
the only issue is if the athlete is entering for themselves on 2 iPads at once, they get 2 records. But
right,
that wouldn't happen.
It's just 2 records. It's not like a collision or anything.
So that's the thing. You could share that kiosk login, but the difference is you're going to have 5 choices. Like if you've got the other scenario, you could do that fine. But let's say another scenario we came across was that okay, we're in a gym training session. We want to do wellness. We've got a groin squeeze test situation going on over there. We've got a functional movement screen thing, basic thing going on over there. 3 or 4 different things going on, or the athlete needs to put in an RP, whatever, RP, wellness, whatever. Now again, you could just log all of those iPads in with one login and have those 5 options available from the home screen. Now that relies on the athlete picking the right one at the right station and putting it in, or whoever. If you don't trust them to do that, or you don't want to confuse them, then strip it out into 5 separate logins and have each one set up to do only one thing. But again, it's horses for courses. But it's a really cool use of the system, and it's a great introduction for them. It's really useful.
We found with a couple of the teams that we've put the kiosk mode in there is that it's just getting a few small pieces of information in. They don't even really know that they're going into the power of the system. They're just putting in their RPEs, they're putting in their wellness things, and they're just like, yep, see, I'm going to play basketball, So, but it's real good information for the coaches and the service professionals.
Anyone else?
Great, thank you. Oh, Steve?
Unrelated. You were talking about the new calendar schedule module. Everybody has an iCal that you push to phone. How much of an overhead is that on the server that you're on? Like, let's say, for example, you send a team of 900 people to an Olympic Games, and they've all got their calendars running.
That's one for Murph. What do you think?
Yeah, that can happen for that.
Okay.
And sending performance alerts to 900 people all via text messages.
Yeah, alerts and text messages will get queued up in the process. So there's a whole lot going out at the same time. It can take a little while to work through that queue. It's not done as a priority. The iCals are probably similar. It's a background, for instance. So I imagine it's possible that might pick this a lot of times, but it shouldn't affect the system.
The server should be able to reasonably handle a load like that.
Yeah.
If everybody decides to up their calendar
It's
one shot.
It's tiny amounts of information, relatively speaking. If you think about it, like they're just little strings of text and things. I think when you get into server issues is when everyone runs a massive report at the same time, and a lot of optimization has been done over. Now that we've got some really big clients, we've done a lot of work on optimization the last year or two, and again, that's been a real big amount of work for the dev team. It's like, okay, wow, we've got some really big users now, and we've just got to keep optimizing. Optimization is an ongoing process because data gets bigger and bigger and bigger. You just have to keep optimizing. So no, we'll stay on top of that. We have to.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya. That was awesome.